Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. Coop, there was something that I synced on the social medias. Shout out to, of course, Josh Pate over there at Josh Pate's College Football Show. And he asked a very intriguing question. And not very many people can actually answer it. I'm going to put this up here on the screen because I think it warrants some attention here. Let me do this. And
I keep on looking out my window. So if you guys are wondering what I'm looking at, it's because
it's storming.
We've already got trees uprooted all over the place, and you know, our new neighborhood. We built a new house a couple years ago, and so we don't have very many trees like in the neighborhood. But you know, 150 yards over here, we got a little bit of a forest, and we got trees already down. It's already looking ominous. So if you see me looking over there, that's why.
Right. Here's the question. He says, college football is messy, but when anyone claims it's ruined, I always ask the same question. Do fall Saturday still feel the same? And people say, and he also asked, for anyone saying that it's fundamentally different for the worst, give me specifics as to why. Cool. I'm going to pose this question to you specifically because a massive set of changes just hit college football recently. The first one that I do not think is a negative thing, and I don't see why anybody else would consider this a negative thing, but you know, people like to complain just to complain sometimes. But college football is going to a seeding change, which would be straight seeding going forward when it comes to the playoffs. For the uninitiated, what that means is after the first off, they're going to seed them based upon actual seeding. There won't be an automatic top 4 spot for conference champions. It'll be based upon where you are in the top 12. Second thing is that as each rounds go, they will do reseeding, and that's my understanding with that. Coop, give me your first thoughts around the seeding, and then we're going to talk about Josh Pate's video.
I mean, you just got to look at it. If anybody saw the top 4 seeds last year and you felt objectively like it was legitimate how it was supposed to be, and you really feel that way, I feel like you're in a little bit of a smaller crowd. Let's just be honest. You know, last year, Big 12 was an extremely competitive conference, but did they have a name out there? They had Arizona State that pressed Texas. They had a couple of other teams that looked good throughout the year, but they didn't have a marquee program. So how are you going to sit there and tell me that the Big 12's number 1 really deserves the same, you know, look as the SEC or Big 10 number 2? You know, really has that type of, you know, capabilities. I don't think any of us had Ohio State winning the national championship last year, week 10. I think most of us thought that they were a very, very good team, but it was still Ohio State. But you knew that Ohio State was probably a little bit more of a favorite than anybody coming out of the Big 12 or Clemson coming out of the ACC or anybody like that. So this is a we've been through so many different things. You had the BCS, you had the coaches poll, you've had the first, you know, you had the Final Four type of situation, then you have the first year of the playoffs. And this year they didn't wait 3 or 4 years to kind of get a good feel about what was going on. They saw something that needed to be addressed, and they addressed it. And I just say it this way is, if you go into the Big 12 and you have a team who comes out with 2 losses, ranked number 18 in the top 25, but then you have a team from the SEC who is the runner-up like a Texas, I'm pretty sure that I would take Texas over any Big 12 team again this year before the season's even kicked off if they ended up at that spot. And so, no, I don't think that this has much to do with it. We're just going to be honest. Like, whether it's 68 teams with college basketball or it's, you know, the seedings for, you know, college softball or college baseball or college football, you know that there is a select few teams that really have the chance to go all the way. And why not reward those teams for being, a team who ends up number 2 or number 3 in the SEC or the Big Ten? These are the conferences that continue to produce the most. Clemson had its run for a few years there. We haven't really seen that. We'll see what it looks like. A lot of people believe in Clemson this year, but I'm fully on board with this because, we've seen it in the NBA, we've seen it in the NFL. We've seen a lot of things to where you have, we've had years in the NFL to where teams win their division at 9-7, and you're sitting there telling me that 9-7 team out of the NFC South is going to stand up to a 14-2 team out of the AFC Central. Like, come on, that just doesn't make sense. So you want to reward a team for being as good as they are, and it is what it is. There's going to be a year to where your top 2 teams are probably coming out of one of those 2 conferences. Now, it's not like you don't get your opportunity from the ACC or the Big 12 or Independent or the group of whatever. You still get your opportunity. You still get to line up and play. But I think that it is only right to reward teams who everybody knows and looks at and says, that team is probably better than this conference champion here, even though they were runner-up in their conference.
Yeah. And that's true. That's a true way to look at it. And to me, I want conference championships to have value, but not in that way of having an Arizona State fly up into into a top 4 or something like that. When, there was questions about them going into it. A conference champion like a Boise State immediately getting a break. Make them play somebody if they're not already in the top. If they're, because they're as the highest rated conference champion from the G5, you're probably going to end up around 10 to 12. I think the simulation here had them at number 9. Now, them versus Indiana would have been a fun game. Ashton Genty versus Indiana, who's just hot, up-and-coming squad. They pull the upset, we would appreciate it. And that, to me, is the allure of the 12-teamer, is because you're going to see, if you do it right, like March Madness, you're going to get a few upsets here or there, and that's going to make it fun. You're going to feel like they're actual upsets because it'll be teams that you feel like are truly matched up better in comparison. I would have liked Boise State, Indiana. Heck, Boise State may have pulled out that win. Then that would have been a fun game to see. Texas, Ohio State in the second round. Similar to what we had already saw, in the semis. It'd have been fun to see that. Then Georgia going up against Ohio State or something. A lot of those would have felt different, while at the same time, you may have still ended up with the same 2 teams in Notre Dame and Ohio State at the chip. I mean, Notre Dame, Ohio State. You may have seen those 2, which is okay if you got the same result. But the thing is, you want to see if teams truly can match up with each other.
Yeah, I mean, look at that bottom tier right there. Do you really think that it wasn't going to just go ahead and be Texas versus Georgia? Like, it didn't matter who came out of the Arizona State, and is that Ohio State? Like, okay, it's Ohio State. Never mind. So you're going Arizona, to have that Texas Ohio State in round 2, and that's what people are more interested in. That first round, NCAA tournament. You're really saying what 16 seed can make the biggest amount of noise versus the 1. Indiana and Boise State. I mean, those are 2 teams right there that you go, okay, you guys are both here because we've expanded the playoffs. You had a great year. We want to give you props for this. But I can promise you this: we talked about it in the middle of the year. That whole coaching staff was very, very appealing to a lot of different programs, and you get the winner of those 2, and then okay, so now you have played each other. We've got the winner of you 2. Now you get to go see Dylan Gabriel in Oregon, and now we get to see what happens from here. I mean, that's really what it should be, because I don't think that you throwing in a Boise State Oregon in week 1, in round 1, that's not nobody knew. Nobody had a good idea about, like, didn't they play earlier in the season too, right? I think Oregon and Boise State played early in the season. So you get that again in round one. How fair is that for Boise State that now you got to go up there? If I'm Boise State or Indiana, I would relish in the fact to say, hey, listen, we can do this, and we have a good shot of winning our first playoff game in program history. That's something that Oklahoma is still looking for. So that's a positive for some of these teams. But yeah, I think that just seeding it how it's supposed to be, that's the way you got to go, because it just feels silly. The NBA did away with their stuff, with their divisions and everything like that a few years back, and it's turned out for the best. So if anybody has issues with this or says, and you can kind of move into Josh Pate, because this is at the end of the season. For me, Jay, when I wake up on Saturday, I still feel the same way as I felt in 1996. I still feel the same way that I felt in 2002. I still feel the same way that I feel in 2010. You wake up on Saturday, 11 o'clock, is go time. You get your, whether it's the Fox Big Noon kickoff or whether it's game day, it still feels the same. And to college students, it still feels the same. You wake up a little bit early. You get the, you got Herb Street and Fowler. Corso no longer. But,
life is still good.
It still feels the same for me, every single year. And that's why I think that, with all the stuff that has changed in college football, this isn't NIL's fault. It's not handlers' fault or agents' fault, and it's not anything like that. These are things that we should have handled a decade plus ago.
Boom.
And it's just still new. So when you move the cheese, and if you haven't read that book, go read that book.
Who Moved My Cheese? Great book.
When you change these things, it feels new, and people feel like when it's new, it can't be as good. I still feel like college football is still as good. And let's be honest, you have 5 or 6 teams every year that really have a legitimate chance at winning the national championship. You don't necessarily – let's look at college basketball. You don't have 68 teams who really have a good shot. Are you telling me that Alcorn State or Sacramento State or any of these teams who win their conference tournaments and they get to go up against a North Carolina or an Illinois or something like that, do you really think that that's the first team that they're knocking out and they're going straight to the championship? No. That's why we like the upsets, because it is so rare. And so you get a chance for these teams like a Boise State to get in there and see what it looks like to be against a high-performing Indiana. I personally like these things.
Man, yeah, and see, you echo really what my entire sentiment is with this. And this is why I agree with Pate, and I disagree with a lot of the people, even some of my folks in the comments. Love y'all, but at the same time, I do not think college football has gotten worse whatsoever. I'm more excited now than I was back in the day, and not only because we really cover this bad boy like crazy, but the thing that gets me the most excited is that everybody actually has a chance. Let's keep this a buck. You said it perfectly, Coop. Everybody didn't have a legitimate chance of winning a championship. That was never, ever an actual thing. We like to tell ourselves that, and I tell you this too. Everybody hears me say this quite often. The point of having shows, podcasts, things of this nature that exist is to talk about your favorite team and hype them up. That's kind of the purpose. We're not, yes, you can call us sunshine pumpers. I am totally fine with that, because who wants to sit up and say, well, my team sucks as usual, so I think I'm going to go, support them just, even though I know they're going to suck. No, you always want to feel like your team has a chance. And that's the beauty of college football, is that legitimately just about everybody has a chance. While at the same time, let's be realistic here, not very many teams actually have a chance. It never changed with NIL as much as we think. NIL did make it to where some other teams now have an opportunity to do some stuff, but it always gets down to 2 things. 1 is coaching, and 2, the players actually executing. College football, to me, has gotten even better now because you got more eyeballs. People have more reasons to complain, and that is great for the sport. The eyeballs are great. Now, and I say that specifically because so many people always talk about they talk about ratings as if they get paid off of ratings. Like, I hear that discourse about the NBA all the time, and I laugh, and it's like, oh, the ratings are going to be terrible if the Thunder play the Pacers in the NBA Finals. Why do you care? The NBA just signed a 10-year, $80 million television deal with all these partners. They just went up 3 times what they were making before. That's not a problem, and it's not going to stop. They'll probably see a 10% increase the next 10-year one. It's going to increase. Why? Because it's live sports. The only thing in today's market, and this even goes back philosophically, I'll drop this on you all as well, when it comes to why channels like ESPN, Fox, Sports, NBC, all of them are changing the way that they broadcast shows or types of shows. The reason is because y'all are here on YouTube watching me, Coop. Your TV ain't on these TV shows anymore. You have choices. So you go and you watch on demand what you like. Most of the time you're watching shows based upon your team. You're not watching in breakdowns of your team, not as much around just the sport in general. Not saying you don't at all. I'm saying as much. The national stuff is harder to do because people are cutting their cord. You got YouTube TV, but you only got it so you can watch actual live games. Yeah. So for college football, their stuff's going to keep going up because y'all will watch a lot. That's the only thing live we actually all watch consistently is sports. Sports is the one commodity that is going to do nothing but increase because it's the only way you can get people to sit down and watch stuff live. Everything else on demand. Because we like that. We like the choices of that. So off of that soapbox, I don't think any of it's been ruined by any of this stuff. Now, this is the difference, though. Now, Coop, I want to get your thoughts on this. My feeling has always been this when it comes to NIL and all of and that jazz. You've had people who have been willing to go to jail to illegally funnel kids money that gives them zero benefits besides seeing their teams get a W on the weekend. Boosters are the wildest things to ever exist to me, but it's also the most fascinating because what value is there for a booster to throw all this money at their school besides to say, my team won a game? For real. You're not on the field. You're not playing. But you'll funnel money illegally to kids. Now you can do it legally. But the problem is everybody's like, well, it's not regulated. It wasn't regulated when they was doing it illegally. It was just sliding money. Everybody talks about Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma. They're throwing money at people, right?
There's the stories of Barry Switzer digging in recruits' trash to find out what type of beer that their dad likes, and then bringing a 6-pack of their favorite beer and going to someone and saying, "Hey, I was looking at this, and their roof was leaking when I was in there meeting with the family. What if I had a roofing contractor that I could just send over there and say, hey, we're doing a project in your area. We want to hook you up." All kinds of stuff like that. And so it is new. And like you said, not every fan base. You look at the OU fan base. You look at the Texas fan base, Ohio State. There's not 4 different shows with 20,000 plus subscribers for North Dakota State or Oklahoma State. No offense to Stillwater, but you just don't have that type of brand.
Nope.
And that's why people continue to click. I know that there's guys I know there's some of you people in the chat, and I respect the hell out of you because I am that guy. Long before I joined you, Jay, I would go in and I would watch all the content I could. I'd listen to Oklahoma Breakdown. I'd listen to Josh and Carey and Jeremy Crabtree way back in the day because I wanted to consume that. I'm not watching Hollywood Squares. That's an old school. I'm not watching
You went old
anymore.
Dang, you went old.
I'm not watching what was it? No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop. Press your luck. I'm not watching that stuff anymore. Those things aren't there. I worked in TV. You try to go and sell Jeopardy and Price is Right and stuff like that. Those things still have, a lot of viewership. But the fact of the matter is, sports is still very alive. People buy live sports and news, and even news is starting to go down on the lower tick because it's the same thing. You've seen everybody's gone on YouTube, and you've seen people in Detroit and LA and Chicago and Oklahoma City and Dallas all saying the same exact same thing, and you don't care anymore. Like, we get these notifications on our phone, and that's all the news we need, and you know that half of it's lies anyway. And if I have to choose between Sunshine pumping for my favorite team or Ben G, I love you, man. You are one of my favorite guys. We've had our tete-a-tetes in the past and our disagreements, but you are a true guy who wants to watch anything college sports related, and you're going to watch those things. You're not going to go watch Real Wives of Hollywood. I mean, maybe you do. I'm not sure. But
I don't know. I ain't going to judge you, Ben G. I know that you may like and dabble in the reality world. I ain't mad at that.
Wars or any of that stuff. Like, those things don't – that's not it. I mean, cable TV is dying, Baker, and this goes way back. I mean, I worked for Cox Communications years in the past, and – the market manager came in at one point and said, we need to focus on, and this is going way back, you'll know what I'm talking about right here, Jay. We're going back to Gigablast. We got to sell Gigablast because the future is people streaming. And now you have YouTube TV. You have Sling, which is like the entry level. You have
basically
Hulu.
Yeah.
You've got all these different things going on. Fubo. You got all these different things. People want to pay for what they're watching. And you don't need 75,000 channels anymore. That's ridiculous. None of us watch that much TV, and if you do, it's passive while you're looking on your phone or watching something on YouTube or whatever. So people still watch college sports. People still watch NBA. People still watch all these things because it is still you can still get into the passion, the rooting interest, and the rivalries. I mean, you look at the WNBA is absolutely just gone from a trash product to something that people are excited about because of Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. And it just doesn't make any sense, but it gives you two sides to kind of fight with. I'm on team Reese, I'm on team Clark. And those are the things that continue to happen. You watched last night. How many different narratives come out of the game with the Thunder game last night? You're watching that. I got people. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the game. I got one guy's over here saying, "Oh, well, Minnesota just went unconscious in Oklahoma City." Blah blah blah. And then there was, all right, here's the league rigging everything, and they paid the officials, and these guys haven't wrapped the game in the playoffs, and now this clown show is out here, and they're going to do this. It's about the passion, and you can't have that over. Well, did you see the dude who was in Final Jeopardy? Like, I want that guy. That guy's my man. You can't root for a dude in Final Jeopardy, but you sure as hell can root for the Knicks or the Pacers or the Thunder or the Timberwolves. You can root for Caitlin Clark. You can root for Angel Reese, and you just gotta tap into the passion. And we don't have that. It's not everybody sitting around the TV at dinner time, eating your food and watching Jerry Lewis or anything like that. You got to watch stuff that actually gets your emotions kind of riled up. So this is still college football, NFL. I promise you this is, at USA Today, we have initiatives around travel. We have initiatives around, home and gardens. We got initiatives around states, and we got initiatives around sports. Guess which ones sell the easiest? It's sports. Okay? In all of our figures, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but in all of our figures, we still got over 7 million monthly views for the Green Bay Packers for our newspaper products. The Green Bay Packers. That tells you something. It absolutely tells you something.
Tells you everything.
We didn't even have that many clicks when we were giving away $100,000 that I personally got to give away. And so that tells me this is people will be more engaged with who the starting wide receiver is, what the draft pick's going to do, what is Jordan Love going to do versus I might win $100,000. Like, people would rather focus their attentions and their efforts on that. So, yeah, sports is still alive, and college football is still very much alive.
What's crazy when you say that is what makes me think, what I think about that is fans believe that they have a better chance of their team winning a national championship or a championship somewhere than they have in actually winning a bunch of money, which statistically might be true. I'm not going to say it's not. But at the same time, all of our understanding around this is that college sports in general is king. It's not going anywhere. So I know that some people are upset or bothered, perturbed by all the adjustments that we're seeing in college football. Hey, I don't like some of the decisions that the grown-ups are making either. But I also understand that this is a business now. And because so many people are making so much money, that it's going to be run like a business to where they can keep they want to keep that money maker going. And the unfortunate casualty behind that is that we've got to wait and see how things turn out in the end. But I'll tell you this, college football here in the fall won't change. It's going to be as exciting. Every conference game matters. We just saw this with Alabama losing to Oklahoma, knocked them smooth about. South Carolina losing multiple games in their conference kept them out. Yeah. Right? Ole Miss, same thing, kept them out. So losing one game may not be as bad, which it never has been as bad. Losing 2 games can be iffy. That third game destroys you, typically. Yeah. And I like seeing a little bit more parity. Kim said it best here in the comments. College football, he's watched Oklahoma beat Ohio State, and then you watch them lose to Arkansas. There was so much emotion and everything there. The tailgating is still ridiculous. I've been to a few stadiums. It's awesome. People still having a blast at these games. Now, you may not want to follow recruiting like we do. We are definitely degenerates that can't stop watching recruiting or following them. It's just, it be what it be. While at the same time, Coop, the NIL component of it helps me do a better job of deciphering who I want on my team and who I don't. Because like a lot of y'all want guys that just love the game and have a passion for it. Cool. Player doesn't pick your school because of NIL. Obviously, they didn't have the passion and love that you were looking for. And that is okay. You'll never hear me complain about that. Because I like the idea that we're going to probably go after kids that fit perfectly what we're trying to do. Winning. They care about winning. And they're the type of kids you want on your roster. And that's okay. I am Gucci with that. I just want people to understand, because the other thing, that other side of the NIL and the transfer portal components that you have to consider too is there's a player on the team that you think sucks and you want him gone. It's very easy to do that now. You can kick kids. You can get rid of kids. Now, you've always been able to get rid of kids if you want to get rid of them, but you can really get rid of them now in comparison. You just, encourage them to get in the portal. I don't think you'll be able to play here. Let me replace you with somebody else probably better.
And think about it. I mean, you can go back, and I don't want to disparage anybody, any dudes by name, because I've already done this, a lot in the past. But as an OU fan, as a Texas fan, as an Ohio State fan, as a Penn State fan, there's always a dude on your team that you're like, he is still here. How in the hell is this guy still here? And you got guys. I'll pick on a little man, Bookie. Bookie was a guy who had a lot of accolades, was borderline 5-star in a lot of different areas. And Sooner Cowboys brings up Jackson Arnold. I mean, plain and simple. How would you, as an OU fan right now, feel going into this year versus last year? If we were rolling into this year, Arbuckle's here, nothing changes except for instead of Mateer, you got Arnold because he couldn't go anywhere. How would you feel?
Y'all would not be happy.
Would the feeling going into this year as an OU fan be better? I mean, tell me in the chat. Let me know, guys. What do you think? If you had Jackson Arnold running into this year, do you feel better about the season or worse? Because I feel like it's going to be unanimous.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody would say the exact same thing. And it's nothing against our guy Jackson Arnold. You know, thank you for being here and trying to figure things out. It didn't work out. No, good luck with you at Auburn. We can't wait to play against you. But that's exactly it. All y'all would have been like, hey, man, why is he still here? Can we get rid of him? And, you know, a lot of y'all would not be wrong. But that's the game today. You can't have one side and not the other. People believe that players have more power, have the power here. They don't have the power. They just have more power. Like, they have more than they had before. They're more at the 40% where the team and the coaches have 60 instead of it being only one way. And that's okay. You're still going to enjoy it. Guess what y'all going to still do? Y'all going to watch these games? Because I'm going to watch these games. We're going to watch these games. We're going to have ourselves a good time. We're going to talk ball on here week after week. Why? Because you can't beat it. So I don't think that college football has gotten worse. I think it's going to do nothing but improve more and more, especially when we figure this stuff out. And you're going to see a lot more parity. You're going to see some teams that they're going to have an influx of money from their boosters that's going to actually help them be a more competitive football team. But no matter what, the kings of college football will always still be at the top. So you're going to see some people come to the top for a little bit. You're going to see them go right back to who they've been the last 30 years. You're going to have some team, because there's a lot of teams that are now better now than they were before, but it was a consistent thing of they'll be here for a bit and then they're going to go right back down to where they were before. So just keep that in mind. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5.